All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Doug Masterson. Currently I'm the Associate Dean in the College of Science and Technology for Undergraduate Affairs, but I'm also on the steering committee for the Center for Undergraduate Research. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the SPUR proposal, how you go about writing one, putting one together. And then I want to keep this fairly informal, so at any point that you have questions, please feel free to stop me. Now, I am recording this, okay, so I put this on my YouTube channel, and you'll all be able to go back and check it out if you forgot something, so you don't need to worry about writing notes. It's capturing everything I'm saying. But if you do have a question, if you'll speak up, because my microphone's with me, so it'll need to pick up your question, okay? Is everybody okay with that? All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So one of our goals for today is to kind of demystify the proposal writing process. You should probably have some questions right now about what will make an excellent proposal. Of course, what goes into an excellent proposal, first and foremost, is the idea. And I hope you all have an idea that you're thinking about working on now, because if you thought coming to this workshop would give you that idea, sorry, that's not the way it works. I'm a chemist by training, so I might be able to help David over here a little bit, but probably not everybody else, okay? So I know he's a chemist. So the idea is, of course, a very important thing that you have to have for any good proposal. You have to have an involved faculty mentor. For this particular program, that's a very key part of the overall situation. We want to make sure that you have a faculty mentor that's going to be with you every step of the way as you go through your project and is there to support you, to provide guidance, et cetera. And we'll talk more about that later. So that, too, goes into our evaluation criteria. Okay, so somebody who's there with you. We also want to know that there's some student excitement. We want to know that this is something you want to do. Okay, this isn't something that you have to do to complete a class. This is something that you have a burning desire to figure out, to create, whatever the case may be. Okay, so it has to come across in your proposal that you're excited about it. And we can tell that. I mean, when we're reading a proposal, we can quite frequently tell, you know, this is something that the student is passionate about, that they've got this burning question, they want to know the answer to this. Let's give them an opportunity to figure out what that answer is. So we're looking for that. And of course, quality and clarity of writing. You have to be able to write in a way very concise. You don't have a lot of space to write your proposal, right? You have to write in a way that somebody outside of your field can understand it. And that's sometimes the most difficult part. I can write scientific papers for a scientist, but when somebody asks me, can you write a little paragraph for the Hattiesburg American, it takes me 3 or 4 days to do that, because it's very, very difficult to take what I'm immersed in and condense that down into something that just about anybody can understand. And so you have to remember that people who are going to be reading that proposal, not all of them are going to be in your field. Not all of them are going to be chemists. Not all of them are going to be in geography or geology or whatever the case may be, dance, music, theater, whatever your area is. So you have to be able to write clearly and of high quality. And of course, you have to have an appropriate budget. We look at that very carefully as well. We want to make sure that our investment in what you're doing is the right investment. Okay, so you can ask for up to $1,000. That does not mean you need to ask for all $1,000, right? If it's not appropriate to do so. Some projects only need $500, $550 to complete. We need you to ask for what you need, but you realize that there is a cap up to $1,000. And we'll talk more about the budget as we get into the workshop today. Okay. So, for some reason, this is cutting off part of my presentation, but it'll be on the YouTube video, so don't worry too much about it. So the idea, again, this is the most difficult part of any proposal. It's the thing that you're going to sit there and struggle with. The good news is, I hope that many of you have already gone through that struggle, and you're here to figure out how to write a proposal. You already have a good idea in hand. You need to remember that the idea needs to be original, and it must be your own project. Now, that can mean a little different for different fields. You know, if you're in the sciences, you're going to walk into a lab to do work similar to what your principal investigator or your mentor is working on. You're not going to be able to go in there, you know, if you're working on plant biosciences and all of a sudden work on alligators. Okay, that's not going to happen that way. But it does have to be a project that's your own, okay? In other words, you're not a technician for a graduate student. You're not just filling in the gaps for a graduate project, those kinds of things. You need to have a piece of a bigger project that's your own, or an entire project that's your own, okay? So we look at that very carefully. Again, must be something that you're interested in or passionate about. Must be clearly communicated, of course, right? And very important here, don't assume the panel will understand your idea. And that's where that quality and clarity of writing comes into play. We need to know what you are wanting to do, what's your idea, but you have to remember, I'm not going to go and look up every reference you had to try to learn what it is that you've got to tell me what it is, right? Don't make me, as a reviewer, do unnecessary work to figure out what it is you want to do, okay? So we need to really be clear with all of that. All right, so where do you express your idea? Well, in your proposal, you're going to have a couple of places where you're going to express your idea. You're going to have a short cover letter you'll have a space where you will be able to write, and if I'm right, if I remember correctly, you have that much space, and it's approximately 250 words, normal words. If you use big words, it's going to be fewer words, right? But it's about 250 words, and this is where you're going to tell us why you're interested in the project. It's very, very important that you describe the idea here, where the idea came from, okay? Illustrate your enthusiasm for the project here, and remember, this is not an abstract of the submission. In reading this, we want to know what your interest is. It's okay to use the first person here, as far as I'm concerned, okay? In the sciences, sometimes we discourage that, but this really is where it's appropriate to write in the first person. We want to know what your idea is, why you're interested in it, okay? You're also going to have an area where you're going to be able to write about 500 words. It's the introduction rationale section, and this is where you're going to tell us what your project is and why it's significant, okay? It's not enough just to say, this is what I want to do. You have to tell us why it's significant. We're making an investment. We want to know that it's a worthwhile project to do, okay? And you have to convince us of that. So here's where you'll talk about things like why your question or goal is important. I heard some people talking about what they were working on here before. It's those kinds of things. Why do you want to make more bio-oil? Well, you said you want to feed 7 billion people, and you can't do it by raising a bunch of fish, right? That's kind of important. Okay, so you would include those types of things there. You want to place your question or goal in context. Make sure you use scholarly literature for citations. We'll talk about the bibliography here in a little bit, okay? Make sure it's scholarly literature. We don't like to see things like Wikipedia or, you know, things that are fly-by-night. We want to see scholarly work that you cite, okay? Tell us what will be advanced if your goal is achieved or your question is answered, right? For the sciences, maybe you're going to generate more bio-oil per acre of plant. If you're in the arts, maybe it's the first time that anybody's ever made a sculpture out of a particular material, okay? Tell us that, okay? Tell us that that's going to be advanced in that. For those of us in the sciences, this is where you're going to talk about things like a hypothesis, okay? For those of you in the arts, you're going to talk about a creative rationale, a creative process for developing something in this area, okay? And just for your information, we fund a good number of people in the arts. It's not all sciences, okay? So we really look to get more and more applications from the arts as well as in the sciences.
Actually, for the College of Arts and Letters, the arts rule. The other departments, the social sciences and humanities, we don't have our representation.
Okay.
Dance comes through tremendously.
Yep, they've done a number, and I think we've had a couple of art sculptures or something. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, that have been funded throughout the years. Okay, I got to look over here to see where I'm at. So, the mentor. That's where we're at on this section. So, your mentor must be involved. Okay, it's absolutely important that your mentor be involved. It's important that they are affiliated with the Center for Undergraduate Research. You can go to the Center for Undergraduate Research website. There's a list of mentors. How many of you already have your mentor picked out? Okay, so you're already doing one, right? You're looking for a mentor?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the center is really equipped to help you find a mentor that's going to fit with whatever project you want to do. So I would recommend immediately after this meeting, you go to the Center for Undergraduate Research, find out who's affiliated with the center, and find out who might be a mentor that would be interested in a project that you're interested in. So in general, what kind of project do you have in mind? More scientific or arts?
It's a blend of the both that has to do with acoustic environments and
Okay.
recording production.
Okay, so you're going to want to find a faculty member.
Music industry probably.
Music industry, yeah. So then there's people listed there in that field. So you can find them and reach out to them and see if you can find somebody that'd be willing to be a mentor in your project.
And if you can't find anybody, just let us know. You can go talk to people, because sometimes they're willing to do the mentoring, but they just haven't affiliated.
That's right. Yeah. So if they're not, if you know somebody would be a good mentor and they're not affiliated, it's easy to get affiliated. So they just need to contact Joanne and complete a few things. So they got to be affiliated with the Center for Undergraduate Research. Does anybody know how to tell if you're walking around campus if somebody's affiliated with the Center for Undergraduate Research? There's a little placard on their door that says faculty affiliate, and it'll have the Center for Undergraduate Research symbol on it. So if you've seen those little black and gold placards on a door that says faculty affiliate, that's somebody who's already affiliated with the Center for Undergraduate Research. And knock on their door, tell them Dr. Masterson sent you, and talk to them about your project. Okay? Maybe they'd be interested in sponsoring it. A mentor has to have completed the CITI training, the Responsible Conduct and Research, and what do we call all that now? There's another Integrity Assurance Program. That's right. I still know it as the city training, but they have to be certified in that. We want to make sure that they know all of the nuances and details about proper mentoring and research ethics and those kinds of things before they take on undergraduate students, and so that's why we require that training to have been completed. They must complete the mentor form. That'll be a part of your application. So when you write your application, there's actually a section where the mentor has to do all the filling out. We'll get to that section here in just a minute, but they have to complete it. You can't submit and then go search for a mentor. You have to have that mentor identified beforehand.
Noting the city training, how that's like, is that saying that's something we need to do in order to?
You will need to do it as well.
Okay.
But specifically on this page, I'm saying that it's the mentor. But yes, you as well as a student, if you're awarded an Eagle SPUR award, you will have to complete the city training. And we have a student module that's a little different.
Is there a time, because I've taken, I forget what it was an 8-week course, and it was like research oriented. It was like
Safety class?
No, I forget what it was, but we had to complete the city training, and I was wondering if there's like a time period that's good for.
Do you have your city certificate?
Probably fine. Probably
She'll be able to look at it.
Should be good for 5 years.
Yeah. So if she's got it on file, you should be good to go.
And also, you're not making them do anything special. Most faculty have already done.
Yeah, most faculty have already done this. But where this might become an issue if you deciding to work with a brand new faculty member that hasn't had time to do this yet. So that might be an issue. Okay. The mentor is going to put together a statement of support. And this is where you need to have a conversation with your mentor, because sometimes the mentors confuse this for being a letter of recommendation. The fact that they're going to take time out of their busy schedules to work with you on a project, we assume that they're going to recommend you. What we want in this statement of support is a summary of the support that they are going to provide you in your research or creative activity. They need to describe in detail how they're going to mentor the student and evaluate your capacity to complete the work. Okay? So we want to know how they're going to meet with you, how they're going to help you when you run into problems with your research, help you identify where you buy certain things, those kinds of things. We don't want a mentor to say, congratulations on your Eagle SPUR, I'll see you at the end of the semester, okay? We want somebody who's going to be there, not to do your work for you, that's not what I'm suggesting at all, but to be there to be a true mentor and a guide to help you go from point A to point whatever, okay, in your project, okay? Now, they're going to read and sign at the end of this all these things, but I just want you to be aware. They're going to promise to give you regular mentoring and advice for the project. They're going to promise to review and approve the budget. So when you get ready to put that proposal together, make sure your mentor has time to look at it, you know, in detail before you submit it, because You know, if you proposed, oh, I need $995 to do this project, and your mentor comes back and goes, this is really only a $450 project, you know, some issues there. So they're going to approve your budget. What you need to understand is those funds will not come directly to you. They're going to go to your mentor's development account, okay? And so everything actually gets paid for by your mentor through that development account. And they promise that that money going into that development account will be there for you. Not that anybody would, but you know, sometimes you just find a little extra money in your account and you just spend it on something else, right? So they're promising not to do that. And so you all can read the rest of it, but basically your mentor is going to sign that statement of support. And we do look at that. We look to see if the mentor is going to spend time with you, meet with you regularly, what kind of activities they're going to do to make sure you're on track. And that's going to be different from mentor to mentor, okay? But make sure that you communicate with the mentor that that doesn't need to be a letter of recommendation. That needs to be a mentor statement, okay? Is there any questions about any of that?
So do we all have to take that city training? Because there's nothing on the website that said anything about it.
You will have to complete city training as well.
All right, how do we do that?
It will be in your letter of, your congratulations letter.
Okay, so once we get accepted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
Yep.
gonna have to do it ahead of time.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll send you a letter and say, woohoo, you made it.
And for the students, it takes a couple hours to complete, something like that. It's a much smaller module than the faculty, which took us about 6 to 8 hours to complete, something like that. Remember, this is going to be on YouTube now. So.
I never get any complaints from anyone.
Yeah, that's right. Joanne Johnson says she never gets any complaints from anybody. I like it. Well, it's meant to be broad, right? I mean, so you're also going to have a section on methods and process, and so you'll have about 300 words to talk about your process. This is where you're going to tell us what you're going to do to complete your project. And notice what I have in bold. You, right? We've gotten some in the past where we're hearing a lot about what the graduate TA is going to be doing, and they're going to be doing all this stuff before it gets to what you're actually going to be doing or something like that. We want to know what you're going to do. You know, if you're waiting on a graduate TA to complete something to give to you to complete the project, not that that's a bad thing, but don't waste a lot of space on it. We really want to know what you're going to do. In a case like that, so maybe, David, I'll pick on you just a little bit, but maybe a new in your lab is going to, you know, make some biological construct. I'm just using it as an example. And you're going to use that in your research. We'll just state that, right? The graduate student has prepared, and I'm going to get it.
Everything's original.
Yeah.
Like, we come in the basis lab, and he's like, all right, I think here's a bunch of different projects. Which one do you want to do? And he's like, these are the seeds, and we have to start from there.
Cool. So we want to know what you're going to do, okay? It's very important, what you're going to do to answer your question. If it's a scientific process that you're going to be utilizing, use the scientific method in your description, right? If you're involved in a more creative process, talk about the creative process and how you're going to answer your question, okay, or achieve your goal, okay? This is where you'll need to tell us where there is non-standard equipment and material needs. We have enough people on the Center for Undergraduate Research Steering Committee. We got people from every discipline just about, okay, or at least every college, okay? They know what's available on campus. So for example, if David was to say, I need a pH meter, I need to buy a pH meter to do this project, I'm going to sit there and go, I know each and every lab has 4 or 5 pH meters. Why is it that you need to buy a pH meter? Well, it might be legitimate, but he would need to make that argument, you know, why he would need one. Maybe he's going to tear it apart and do something with it, right? But you need to tell us anything that's not available and how you're going to get access to that, okay?
Can I mention, like,
Sure.
sometimes students ask about computers.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, if a computer is bought, it does not become your property. It stays with the department because it's purchased by the university, and so it's owned by the university. But you can purchase a computer if you need a computer to go off campus. We had a student who was doing some work in the Delta, and so she needed one that she could take with her. So that was a justifiable reason for a computer.
Yep.
But you just can't have it because my computer's getting old and a new one would be nice.
Whatever you buy will have, most likely, there's a price limit, but a computer would certainly exceed the price limit. if you buy something, what we would call capital equipment, it will come with a USM number right on it, and you will be expected to account for it, and your mentor will have to swear that they will keep track of it. It's a long list of stuff, but make sure you describe your off-campus needs and details during this process discussion. So, for example, let's say you're proposing that you need to go to Jackson to use something in a library up there. And if we're sitting around evaluating these and one of our librarian people says, well, we've got that collection here in the Cook Library. Why do they need to go to Jackson for this? Right? So if you're going to say I need to go to Jackson to use X, make sure you clearly explain that X is not available, here. That's readily available to you. Okay. Make sure you describe it in an understandable manner. Remember, again, I can't emphasize this enough. Not everybody's going to be an expert in your field. So when you're describing your molecular biology techniques, remember that your proposal might well be being reviewed by somebody in the arts. Okay, so yes, there's some things you're just going to have to say using some technical jargon, but try to keep that to the bare minimum. Okay, when you're describing creative activities, make sure a chemist like myself can understand what it is that you're doing. Okay, I don't understand all of the things that are described in art, right? So you need to make sure that I can understand it. A good rule of thumb is if you can explain it to your grandmother, kind of rule. Okay, so that's kind of what I like to think about when I'm writing these kinds of things. Okay, you're going to have a section where you're going to talk about your timeline. You're going to be limited here to 150 words. We need to know how you're going to schedule your time because we're going to give you funds to expend on a project that we expect you to put in, refresh my memory, Marie, about 150 hours over the semester?
Or on average.
On average, yeah. So over the course of the semester, more or less, you should be around 150 hours, okay? And we look at that, okay? So you need to give us a detailed plan of how you're going to schedule your time. However, I will say more is not necessarily better, okay? So, for example, if I know that you have a part-time job and you're taking 15 hours, because remember, you got to be a full-time student, so you got to be taking at least 12, and then you tell me you're going to spend 30 hours a week, it doesn't take me long to figure out that when you're going to sleep and eat and do all these other things, right? So if you have other outside commitments, just, be realistic, okay? But your project needs to be about 150 hours over the course of a semester. Now, I would say on the sciences side, because I can speak to that, that's probably going to happen easily. I mean, 150 hours will go by before you know it. But just keep that in mind as you're starting to talk about scheduling your time. Again, we do think about it a lot when we're sitting down and looking at what you think it's going to take to do. This is a good time to actually start talking to your mentor about the time commitment, because what you think is going to take to do a particular task may not be what it really takes to do a particular task. I can tell a student in my laboratory, for example, in 2 minutes what they need to do for the week on a piece of paper, and it seems like, oh, well, I'll just go in and I'll do that. And then it takes how long? When you've
4 or 5 hours.
or maybe 8 hours, right? So this one little step that we're talking about may take several hours to complete. Remember, it's a lot easier to think about and write about it than it is to actually sometimes do it. So keep that in mind. One of the things that I like to use is a Gantt chart when I'm trying to plot these things out. It's just kind of a timeline tool. You can use that to really plot out your semester for you to make sure that you're going to have enough time. I think they work pretty well. You do not have to include a Gantt chart in your timeline, but it's a great way to kind of map out your tasks and kind of get a good feel for what it's going to take you to complete what you need to complete. Okay? And again, I can't mention enough, consult with your mentor on this, because I can almost guarantee you will go in and say, I think this is how much time it's going to take, and they're going to make adjustments. What you think should be done in a day may actually take a week, and what you think might take a month can really be done in a few days. So consult with your mentor. They have the experience in your field. They know what particular tasks take to do well, and so they are your best resource for that kind of thing. Okay. And again, be realistic and clear. And I can't emphasize enough, more is not necessarily better here. Okay? Don't think that, oh, if I show that I'm going to spend every waking moment working on my research, that the committee will just make me float to the top. We really do look at it and go, you know, that's just not realistic for somebody that's a junior and taking, you know, their speaking and writing classes and doing all these other things. They're not going to have time to spend 30 hours a week doing this. So be realistic, be clear about it. Any questions about timeline?
Well, I mean, like our work, like it takes about a month for the plants to grow, so I spend a lot of time waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have like basically a week window where I gotta do all the experiments
Mm-hmm.
and then decide what to do next. So,
Well, you know, during a lot of quote-unquote downtime, that's a good time to, you know, make sure you're caught up with the literature on things that you need to be following just to keep up to date with, and planning those next experiments.
Get ahead in your other classes, so
Yep.
that when you have to do intensively in that week.
well,
Yeah.
I just didn't know like if the downtime counted towards the 150 hours.
It's 150 hours of working on your project.
Okay, so reading also.
Yeah, reading's definitely an important part. I mean, you're going to have experiments that you thought would work that are going to fail,
Yeah, 'cause I was gonna say, it's like,
and you're going to be in the literature trying to figure out why it failed. And that's part of what we want you to learn in this process. So, yeah, that'd count.
So we would travel time factor into that, because I know a couple of us are traveling to go to our different sites. And so my population, I'm studying population of plants, and they're actually in Wayne County.
Okay?
And so I have to travel up there to do my studies on them. So where would that be something I mean, I obviously would include that.
You know, that's an interesting question. I don't think it counts one-to-one, but I think it certainly has to be taken into
Right, because
account.
it's not necessarily work, but it
Right.
is something that needs to be
Yeah.
factored into
It does.
how much time it takes
Yeah.
to do specific tasks.
Yeah, I think travel time can be included, you know, but I mean, if you're spending 149 hours traveling and 1 hour research,
Right.
you know, we're going to look at that kind of,
Right, not all
you know,
hours are equal.
they're not all equal. That's right. So I mean, if on a week where you're spending about 10 hours, and you know you've got it's about an hour and a half to Wayne County, right? Hour and a half back, so 3 hours there and back. I mean, that would be, I think, reasonable. I mean, yeah, we know you got to get there, but you probably won't be traveling there every week though either, right? There'll probably be some weeks that you've brought specimens back and you're studying them. I don't know what you're doing, but you know, studying them in the lab or whatever, right? Are you working with Dr. Alfred?
I am.
Okay, I figured you were when I heard plants in Wayne County, so I know about his work. You're going to have a section on where you're going to talk about expected outcomes of your work. You're going to be limited to about 150 words. You need to tell us what you're going to produce at the end. And there's many things that you can have as products, right? Some of you may be developing a new technology. I don't know why I picked an oil pump, but I did. At the time, oil prices were a lot higher than they are now. So maybe a new technology. Some of you may be doing scientific explorations, and some of you may be doing something more artistic, more sculpture, and I just picked the Sphinx. But tell us what you're going to produce at the end, okay? Tell us how you're going to share your work with others. We expect you to share your work with others. It's a requirement of this program. Okay? And there's many, many ways you can share your work. Give me some examples.
What about an honors thesis?
That is a way to share your work.
I have to do the presentation at the end of for the CHE 392.
Okay, yep. So chemistry students, we have the annual or the semesterly undergraduate symposium that we do in the chemistry department. That's right. What other avenues might be available to you?
Papers.
Papers, absolutely. Pardon? Conference presentations, and we actually have other programs that can help sponsor those things in the future. Eagle Wings, publication, yep. The Catalyst, that's right.
And if you're looking for something, we have, I don't know if people are taking advantage of it, but it's called, opportunity, I'm trying to think.
Student Opportunity Center.
It's one word together, and it has all sorts of grants, internships, conferences, publications, all geared for undergraduates. So please sign up.
So tell us how you're going to share your work. We encourage everybody to participate in our, it's in April, our undergraduate research symposium that's campus-wide. Okay, that's another way that you can. In February, early March of every year, there's the Mississippi Academy of Sciences. There are, you know, I don't know what kind of conferences are available for in the music industry, but, you know, the Grammys, I don't know. You know, we're going to talk about
They do
this.
regional conferences.
Okay.
For
That's cool. Yeah, so I mean, that would be a way to get your work out to what other people are doing and to present it. And it can be in the form of poster presentations, oral presentations, publication, absolutely. We encourage all of those. Okay. We do have a requirement that you present your work within 1 year at a scholarly venue. Okay, and again, all those things could count. Publication is one way, but that's not a presentation. Okay, so we want to make sure that you've presented your work at a scholarly venue, and there's plenty of things locally that you can tap into. Again, the Mississippi Academy of Sciences, our undergraduate research symposium. You won't be able to do this year's for this particular competition, but next year's. Many departments like chemistry and biochemistry, but other departments also have opportunities for students to give presentations to their faculty and other students, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does anybody know of any other opportunities that I'm missing? I think that pretty much is it. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we had a dance major that put together a film one time, and that was publicly displayed. I can't remember where. Was it at the Sanger?
They were on campus, too.
The two of them were on campus for some?
We had one that went to Venice.
Oh, okay.
Italy.
We'll definitely count Venice as a scholarly venue, okay?
I was wondering, if I wanted to use this in my capstone class
Mhm.
and use it as a project, would that be self-plagiarism? Like actually turn it in for an assignment?
You would need to talk to your capstone teacher to
Try
see.
to knock two out in one here?
Yeah, it,
It's hard because most of the time capstone projects aren't quite this big. And we
Right.
try not to double dip. So
Yeah.
because sometimes we ask, people say, can they do a capstone project as Eagle Spur, where you're talking about kind of doing it the opposite
Yes,
way
ma'am.
around. So it's a little bit different, but we try to discourage it, not so we're not just giving term papers that people are trying to get money for, in essence.
yeah. But, talk to your capstone professor. You're in a gray area there.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, well, this
Yeah.
knocked one project out for me this
Yeah,
week.
'cause I start capstone in the fall too, and the work I'm doing right now should be done and hopefully a paper by the end of summer.
Mhm.
I'll have a new project.
Now that would be a clear break. Yeah, so you won't have a problem there.
Well, I have to start a new project for capstone,
Mm-hmm.
and the Eagles for this one's from fall, so the project would be the same, right? I would end up doing the same project back to back on top of each other.
So for what you want to submit to Eagle Spur, you think will be done by the summer?
Yeah, what I'm working on now should be done by the end of the summer if it works out. If it
Okay.
doesn't, it's gonna take longer.
Your Eagle Spur needs to be
For what I'm starting in
distinct.
the fall.
Yeah.
It has to
Those
be,
were supposed to be in the fall, too, not
Mhm.
in the summer.
and that's when I start capstone is in the fall too. So I got a conflict of interest.
Maybe. I mean, maybe you can have a piece of the project that would be Eagle Spur and a piece of the project that would be kind of your capstone.
Okay.
It's possible. It's going to be more difficult,
Okay.
but it's not
But
impossible.
you'll do the project in the fall, right?
Yes.
Okay, because we've had some students that try to do the project in the summer and then they're done by the fall. And this is to be done in the fall semester.
Mhm.
And that's where we've had some conflict.
Yep. All right, you're going to have an area where you can describe your budget. You'll have a place where you can put various items like commodities, equipment, travel. We'll talk about the bottom one at salary and stipend just a little bit here in just a moment. The justification and the amount. Very important that you be detailed here, okay? Don't write something under commodities and just write commodities, okay? If you're doing an art project and you need a palette of paints, tell us you need a palette of paints and then justify why you need them, okay? The justification sometimes comes to us less than adequate. Sometimes it's been absent. We need to know why you need what you need. And that's, any granting agency always needs to know that, okay? Because we have to report to people, right? And then you'll write in the amount that you need. So commodities, does anybody know the difference between a commodity and a piece of equipment? What would you say would fall under a commodity category?
Say something that's just kind of an extra this equipment, but this would kind of help out.
It's not necessarily important for.
Well, no, commodity, everything that's on this list needs to be important.
Okay, well, then that's the wrong word to use, but
Is it something that's not directly involved in conducting?
My definition of commodity is something that's typically considered consumable. Okay? So if you need something like a chemical that you're going to use and you're not going to be able to get it back, right? That would be a commodity. Okay? A piece of equipment is something that you can use multiple times. For example, like a scale or a pH meter or an easel for a piece of art. That would be a piece of equipment. Okay? But the paint would be a commodity because you're going to put it on the canvas and you're not going to be able to put it back in the bottle and use it again, right? So.
Are we allowed to expand this thing? So if I try to explain to someone who doesn't know what fire is, like pH, it's an enzyme, how am I going to?
In the justification, well, in the justification, you can tell what the acronym is, or you can just say fire is an enzyme utilized in X, and we need it for whatever purpose. Yeah. So you're going to be able to.
Like write everything like you're explaining it to your grandmother. I was like, well, it's gonna be kind of hard to explain to grandma what fire is, and I think it's 100 words or less.
Well, in this particular case, we're going to trust that you need it. Your mentor signed off on it. So if you say it's an enzyme needed for whatever, that's going to be good enough for us. Okay. You're going to have an area for travel where you're going to, if you might need a plane ticket to get to wherever to do what you're wanting to do. You may need mileage. You may need to rent a car. Whatever the case may be. Okay. You're going to put your travel amount there. You're going to justify your travel. Okay, for example, you obviously indicated you need to travel from here to Wayne County. Tell us where in Wayne County, that kind of thing, And yes, ma'am.
How does one, I'm a design trainer and I want to try to get wrongfully convicted exonerees in Mississippi into a forum.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't,
So you work with Alan Thompson?
yes.
Yeah.
I haven't identified my exonerees yet to be able to say where they're coming from or anything, so is it okay if I'm a little more vague? They're definitely coming from Mississippi, but.
Is there any particular prisons you're targeting? Or no, exonerees, so they've been exonerated.
Yeah.
So do you kind of know the general area?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a list of exonerees that have, I'm not going to take them all, but I've got a list of all Mississippi exonerees and where they're from. I don't know exactly where they live yet currently,
Okay.
but I can tell you like where they're from.
Yeah, in that case, you're not going to be able to say, I know it's going to be this person at this location, but get it as close an estimate as you can. Yeah. If you know you're wanting to try to get somebody in the Delta and somebody on the eastern part, northeast part of the state, something like that, give us your best guess, okay? And then, of course, justify it. You can request salary and stipend, okay, up to that $1,000. However, having said that, let me give you a couple little caveats. Let's say you've put together your entire budget, and it comes out to $800, and you go, well, I'll just pay myself $200. We're going to catch on to that, and we're not going to like that, okay? Why? Because we can use that $200 to fund somebody else's research. We always have more good ideas than we have money to fund, okay? So we're very, very cautious and judicious with how we use our money, how we dole it out. However, if you have a situation where you're working to support yourself, right, and you need some release time from that job to do the work, that's a legitimate request. So if you have to have a job to make ends meet to pay your rent, right, and you need to have the time off from that to go to Wayne County, that would be a legitimate request, okay? I'm trying to think, have we had many of those types of requests? A few probably, but
Yeah, yes.
um,
Because a lot of times too, students, especially in the humanities or in English or whatever, they just need time.
yeah,
They don't have to buy a lot of equipment.
yep.
But they need to be able to sit down for 3-4 hours and just read in the library.
Yeah, and they need not to have to go to their part-time job off campus. So you're buying your time out. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about travel.
Uh-huh.
So, my research itself has a lot of travel associated with it, at least in the front end. And so, but there's also a conference that I've been hoping to go to. It's actually
I'll let Joanne and Marie talk about the Eagle Wings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have just for kind of
So,
travel.
okay.
Yeah.
So that would be another application, another program.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, otherwise, if you went for another Eagle Spur, it would have to almost be another project. So the Eagle,
Okay, so
the
Eagle
Eagle
Spur
Wings is specifically for what you're talking about.
Mhm. Yep. So, and then you'll total it up, and many projects sometimes will cost more than what we can give you, okay, especially in like the sciences. So maybe it's going to cost $1,500. You've asked Eagle Spur for $1,000. We also have to know where are these other sources of funds going to come from. That should be stated by your mentor in the mentor statement as well. If they say, you know, it's going to cost more to do your project than what we can get from Eagle Spur, but I've got some money set aside in my DE account that I'm willing to commit to this student, or maybe the Honors College has decided to give you a little bit of money, or the McNair program is going to pay maybe some of your travel, those types of things. Whatever the case may be, you need to identify what that is there as well, okay? So, be realistic and detailed. Remember, this isn't free money. Needs to be justified, very important. No per diem or mileage estimates. You're going to have a little bit there because yours is a little different, I know, okay? And then indicate the other funding sources as appropriate.
We had a student request a per diem of $104 a day for food. So,
That's good eats. That's lobster every day, every meal, right? Be realistic, because we want to fund as many of you all as we can, right? And if you can get away and get everything done that you need to get done with $800, that leaves us $200 to put to somebody else, and you know, and it's a struggle for us when we're sitting there and we're going, man, we're out of money, but if we'd like to fund these next 2 or 3. You know, so be judicious, okay? If you absolutely don't need something, don't request the money for it. We're here to make, you know, get you what you need, but you know, don't be lavish.
Is there ever a case where we're not approved for the entire budget?
Yes, we've had that. We've had requests where I'm trying to remember an example, but I know we've had the discussion where we have had requests for the full 1,000. And it was clear, for example, the salary line was just being requested because to make up the difference, and we trimmed the budget. We said, we'll fund this much. Now, you could, if you don't think you can do it for that, you're more than welcome to say thank you for the opportunity, but I'm refusing. But we do look at it very carefully. If you need 1,000, ask for the 1,000. I'm not, but if you need 900, ask for 900. Okay. I forgot about that. So get the top ranked one, get a little extra money. The bibliography, very important, as you all might imagine. There is no word limit here. We want you to be scholars, and that means citing everything that needs to be cited to put everything in the proper context. Background information, actual things that you've cited, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you use good scholarly literature, things like books and actual journals, okay? Very important. Things that are peer-reviewed. Use databases to find any needed references that you need. Today you can find a lot of stuff on Google, but it doesn't find everything, and the librarians here are very, very good at helping you use a variety of databases and search engines to find detailed information. You know, so for example, if you're looking for information on exonerated individuals, Google may not find everything you want, right? But there may be a database available, you know, in a government database that would allow you to look through case histories, for example. I don't really know what I'm talking about with that, but I mean, it sounds good, doesn't it? But the librarians do know, and they can help you. So if you're running into a situation, make sure you use the library resources that we have here on campus. We have excellent librarians and physical facilities to use, okay? Make sure you're using primary sources, things that are originally authored. Remember that Wikipedia is not a primary source, okay? Nothing gets me going faster than when I see a bibliography in one of my classes that's Wikipedia, Wikipedia, Wikipedia. I'm like, no. And it's not because it's online. If it said Encyclopedia Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, I would be the same way. It's a great place to go and get general information. I use Wikipedia. But I would never put it in one of my scholarly works, okay? I'm not very good at geography, so when I need to know where some place is, I will go to Wikipedia. I'll find out a little bit about it. But if I'm going to write about that place, I'm going to go and find the actual primary sources of information to do that, okay? So keep that in mind. No bibliography makes my life real easy. If I don't see a bibliography, I don't rank it well. You will get, as far as I'm concerned, you wouldn't get funded, okay? It's a big red flag to reviewers. Even if you're in the arts, okay, there are plenty of journals, there are plenty of scholarly works out there on things that are being done. Make sure you use those appropriately, because other people have probably had similar ideas and published on them, and you need to know where your idea sits in context, okay? So we don't want any red flags. I always tell the students during these talks, make my life difficult. Make it difficult for me to review your proposal in terms of I'm really going to have to sit there and evaluate yours compared to others because yours is really good. When you leave things out, you've made my life really easy. I just go, I can't evaluate that. So why should I you know, spend the same amount of time on somebody that didn't bother to complete the application and give them a fair assessment compared to somebody that took all the time to accurately complete everything and really put a lot of time into it, right? So don't make my life easy in that regard, okay? You're going to have some obligations. You'll have a place where you put in your name and basically sign, if you will. You're going to have an obligation to understand that Southern Miss Center for Undergraduate Research will review the proposal, your transcript, GPA, as available on SPUR. You have to be a full-time student. You have to be in good standing. Okay, you're agreeing that we can go look that information up. You agree to make satisfactory progress on your project and expend at least 150 cumulative hours over the course of the semester. Okay, things happen. Things happen, and we know that. What we don't want you to do is if something happens in your life where you're not going to be able to finish the 150 hours at the end of the semester, let's say you get sick. Don't just wait till the very end and then contact us immediately. Let's work with you, okay? We have worked with people in the past. Where it becomes difficult for us is if you just wait until the next semester and then go, well, I didn't do anything, and here's why, right? As soon as something happens, let us know, okay? It's pretty rare, but if something does happen in your life that's going to get in the way of you doing your research, we understand. Let us work with you, okay?
Every semester we have one student gets an extension for one reason or another.
Yeah, and we're willing to work with you on it. I mean, for example, let's say you do get hospitalized, heaven forbid, right? And things are going to get better the next semester, and you got started and you just couldn't finish. Well, we want to work with you on it, but we've got to know, okay? Because there is some reporting requirements we have to keep up with, okay? You are going to agree to attend and participate in professional development opportunities organized by the Center for Undergraduate Research. We have a UNV 392 course that you will be required to enroll in at no cost to you. Even if you are just at 12 hours, those hours won't, or that hour won't count against you. And it's got a variety of things, both online and face-to-face. So, like right now, this would count as one of those opportunities. You're going to submit a 2-page report to the Center for Undergraduate Research discussing the outcome of the project at the end of the semester in which funds are awarded. And that's where things can get, like I said, if life happens and all of a sudden the end of the semester comes and Joanne doesn't hear from you, Joanne's going to be emailing you. And she's going to want to know, why don't we have a report for an award we gave you? Well, if she knew in advance, hey, this individual got sick, we worked with them as a committee, we've given them an extension to the next semester, all is good, right? So that's why we need to be kept in the loop on those things, okay? You also are going to promise that you are going to present your results in a scholarly forum within a year, and that you're going to use the funds consistent with the budget, and bring any significant change in the budget to the attention of the CUR for approval. So let's say, for example, you budgeted, let's say, $500 for travel, okay? And you budgeted the rest for whatever else. But during the project, you were able to collect all the specimens that you wanted, and now you figured out that you need something else to use with that money. That would have to come back to the CUR for approval, okay? You can't just, oh, now I'll take my travel money and I'll use it to buy this, okay? These things can happen. I mean, things can take a different direction sometimes, and that's okay, but it has to be approved. It may be appropriate that if you didn't use all of your travel money, the center could say, well, the leftover travel money comes back to us. I mean, you have what you need to do your research, and so we'll use that to help somebody else out, right? And that you understand that the acceptance of the funds may affect your financial aid package. Where would that come into play? If you're taking a salary or a stipend, okay? Because that would then be income, which would be reportable on a FAFSA. Now, things like equipment and commodities, those are going to be paid for out of your Mentors DE account. Those are going to be university property. That's not going to, I don't think that would affect your financial aid package at all. But if you're receiving a paycheck to buy your time out, that could affect your financial aid package. That's all we're saying here, okay? Any questions about any of that? Okay, good. You'll also have to complete the RCR training and IRB if required. So if you're going to be working with human subjects, IRB will be required. Yep. Another one that's not up there that I always forget to put on there is IACOOK. So if you're working with animals, well, with certain animals, right? Animals with a spine, right? Is that the rule? That counts too? Okay. They do have a spine. Yeah. But, if you're working with bacteria.
But not the ticks themselves.
Wow. But if you're working with animals, make sure you contact the IACOOK people. And remember, these things have to be done before you actually are allowed to expend any money. So Joanne sent you an award letter. You're going to get, let's just say for round numbers, the $1,000. She will hold on to that money until she has proof that your IRBs, your RCRs, your IACOOKs, whatever the case may be, are completed, okay? We have to know that you've been trained properly in the ethical and responsible conduct of research before you start doing your research, okay? Yes, ma'am.
And the city training is pretty immediate, but the IRBs have a bit of time, right?
I'm fortunate. I work with dead stuff, so.
If it's just a benign survey, that could get approved within a couple of weeks. If you're dealing with prisoners, that would probably have to go to full committee review, so that could take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks.
So it's a good idea to get that moving as quickly as you can, yeah. You are going to agree to meet regularly with your mentor. This doesn't happen often, but we have heard from mentors where I don't know where the student went. You need to stay in contact with that mentor, okay? You need to promise to us that you're going to conduct your research or project in an ethical manner, that you're going to preserve your research record. That's a university requirement. For those of us in the sciences, that means you're not going to write your research record on the back of a piece of toilet tissue. You're going to use a valid means of recording and preserving that research record. Okay. For some disciplines, that may mean videoing things. Whatever is appropriate, consult your mentor. But that research record has to be preserved, and it will remain with the university. That's university research policy. Okay. And you'll attend the Center for Undergraduate Research workshops, okay, that we have throughout the semester as part of that 392 course. What do we have involved with 392 now? It's been so long since I've even looked at the syllabus.
The workshops?
Yeah.
Well, essentially, we have students need to go to the reception, which we hope is something that they'll enjoy doing.
Get some food.
And then we have, I think, 4 online workshops to deal with research methods.
Publication.
Publications, and then we have a required mid-semester check-in, and that's where we try to talk with everybody just to make sure everything is going all right with you. And then we have at the very end, we have the 90-second presentations where they have to essentially tell us what your research was like in 90 seconds, the elevator talk, as people call it.
So,
It's like half a 3-minute thesis.
so 392 isn't actually a physical section that meets regularly through.
No, we have, I think, 4 in-house meetings and then 4 online. So it's kind of a
Okay.
50-50 for us in that regard.
Okay.
It's kind of a
And the
hybrid
idea-
delivery.
And the online also has a component with it where there's a discussion board that you participate. And the idea is it's done by Tony Sager, who's over in the Learning Enhancement Center. And she tries to have you reflect on how the topic that's being addressed goes with your research. So it's sort of an introspective look at what you're doing.
Is there, like, just thinking forward, like, is there still a possibility, though, that when creating a schedule, that it would produce a time conflict in
No.
the schedule generator? Okay.
No, we offer, when we do have the in required sessions, we usually offer at least 2 of them on a Monday and a Tuesday, or Thursday and a Friday.
Okay.
And so far, it hasn't been too much of a problem. Our co-students, a lot of times will Skype in, so
Yeah.
they're taken care of as well.
We're here to take care of you. You look like you might have had a question.
Well, I was just wondering, the reception,
Yes.
I remember Dr. Harley went in my stead,
Yeah.
because I had a military obligation. I was just wondering if that counted against me
No,
or.
no, no, no.
No,
I
you're
mean, I
fine.
would have loved to have some cookies and pizza.
Okay.
Well, you know, the Air Force was trying to starve me.
And also, I should say, 30% of your grade and UND 392 is supplied by your mentor. And so that's the idea, that it's a way, mostly 392 is just a way for us to keep in touch with you and try to make sure that our investment in you is being well spent.
Plus, it transcripts your research project, right? You were that as part of your Eagle SPUR, so you could show an employer or whoever you need to show your, hey, I did this project and it was transcripted because I received this award, right? So you can show that as proof. Talk a little bit about funding. Our funding rate, I think this is still accurate, is around 50%. You all might think that doesn't sound very good, but in my line of work, we're below 10% funding rates at the national level. Okay, so over 90% of all people in my field get rejection letters. Right, we're in the rejection business. This is if we had funding rates like this, I'd be jumping up and down. I'd be wealthy. Okay, so our funding rate's about 50%. We typically get somewhere around 40 to 50 applications in the. I don't know about in the spring, but in the fall, it's about that.
Usually there's fewer in the spring than that.
Yeah, and we really try to spend all our money. We try to go through and we rank all the proposals, and we try to fund as many of those proposals as we can.
And one time, just like with submitting NSF or whatever, your odds go up if you resubmit the proposal.
That's right.
And I think we have probably close to 100% rate for the students that we submitted to get funded the second time.
Yeah, so if you submit this spring and it doesn't work out for you, don't be afraid to submit again in the fall. Yep, absolutely. There are more good ideas than there is money, and so that means that there are going to be some projects that should have been funded that aren't going to be funded, and those are good candidates for resubmission. Okay, it's one of those things. It's just a fact of life. You run out of money sometimes, and we do every semester. We want as much of that money to be spent on you and your ideas as possible. Okay. The money will be deposited in your mentor's account. Do not call Joanne and ask, when is the check going to be in the mail? It will never be in the mail to you. It will go to your mentor's account. Your mentor has a method that they use to purchase things from their DE account. For example, I have a purchasing card, a P card, that I can buy whatever is necessary and then just charge that charge to my development account. So the student that I had who was an Eagle SPUR winner, she used the money for travel, and she bought all of her tickets and stuff, and paid for them, and then we reimbursed her out of that DE account. That's how that worked. But if you need to buy paint or whatever the case may be, enzymes, Your mentor will help you do that and purchase it. Well, some things can be very expensive. Your 2-page report must include a statement on your expenditures. You and your mentor are responsible for spending the money according to state law. Talk with your mentor about this. There are a number of things that you think that should be purchasable that are not purchasable, or purchasable from a place that you think you can purchase. There are a number of things that we have on state contract that you will have to buy through a particular vendor. For example, I got my hand slapped about a year and a half ago because I went to Office Depot and bought a printer cartridge. I did. Who knew you couldn't do that, right? We have a vendor with a state contract that I was supposed to go through. Okay, so if you're putting on your thing that you need to buy printer cartridges because you're going to be printing a bunch of surveys, know that we have state vendors that provide those. Your mentor will help you navigate that. It's more complicated than I can sit here and tell you about. Okay?
The Riemann paper that you need to print those.
That's right.
That's on state contract.
That's right. So you have to abide by state law.
And you can't buy food. So if you're trying to have a focus group and you just wanted to get some pastries put up, you can't buy it.
Right. So this is why it's important for you early on to have your proposal looked at by your mentor, okay? And I'll be honest, it's so complicated that I miss things from time. You know, you need somebody to know where you can and can't purchase things, for example. Okay? So, tell you a little bit about how your proposal will be evaluated. So when we get your proposal, we read it, and then we go through and look at these factors, and we give you an overall evaluation. We're going to be looking at the completeness of the proposal, the originality of the scholarly idea and plan, the definition of the scholarly problem, your potential to contribute to the body of knowledge, the quality of your literature review, the appropriateness of your research method, feasibility of your plan and timetable, your budget, the quality of your writing and the proposal style, your grade point average, and your mentor support. Okay? All these things are going to be evaluated when we look at your proposal. And you want to have that as highly ranked as you can. Do you want to add something, Marie?
No.
Okay.
Just looking at it.
So we use this so that I know that when I'm looking at 2 different students, I'm trying as best I can to use the same criteria. It's not just, oh, I read that one and I really like it. I might have really liked it, but my scores matter. Okay? Yeah.
I wonder, is there, for somebody that is wanting to, that got rejected and wants to resubmit, is there a way for them to get a hold of this?
No.
So you can know where to tweak it.
In that case, I think it is in your best interest to talk, have a heart-to-heart with your mentor. They're going to probably have an idea about where things fell short. And we just don't have the personnel to gather all this information and make sure that, names have been removed, and it's a cumbersome process. So unfortunately, we don't give this back. Okay. Now the submission is through Aquila. So when you go to the Aquila digital community, there will be a place over here on the left, submit research, and that's where you're going to click, and it'll ask for an email address and a password, or you can create a new account. So if you've used it before, you just use that. If you need to create a new account, you'll create a new account and move forward. And so this is actually used to submit a variety of things, correct? And so you'll go through the submission agreement for the Eagle SPUR, et cetera. You'll check the box down at the bottom where I've got the big green arrow. And you'll click continue. I think this is still the way it works. And then this is where you will be able to enter in your proposal information. So you'll have kind of a top half and a bottom half. I had to cut it in 2 parts. It's kind of long, okay? But you'll put in your proposal title, your author, that's you, the date of the submission, the department, the faculty mentor, all that kind of information will be put in there. and then you will upload your full text files and the mentor recommendation on the kind of at the bottom of that page where you can upload things.
Actually, we're going to change it. We had too many problems because a lot of times the mentor recommendation was coming in separate from the student's application. So the mentor recommendation is just going to be sent directly to Joanne.
So the mentor won't be
Right.
uploaded on this?
Yes.
Okay,
It
so
was-
that'll change.
That's what it says on the website, right? It says mentors go to the same website.
Go to the same website to get the form, but they can just send it separately. We do need to
Okay.
update that.
Okay.
Good point you got about that.
Okay, I didn't know that.
We learned that last year.
And then you'll see the little submit down at the bottom, and that's how you'll submit. If you have any questions, you can definitely go to the Center for Undergraduate Research webpage. So if you just go to usm.edu/research, you can find it that way, or the extra / Center for Undergraduate or Center-Undergraduate-Research. And what you'll find over here on the left is a variety of things about Eagle SPUR, additional funding opportunities, faculty affiliates. So for example, you're looking for a faculty affiliate, you can go there and you can find a whole list of people in a variety of disciplines and reach out to them. Just send them an email, say you're thinking about applying for an Eagle SPUR and you thought that they might be a good mentor, go have a talk with them. And if you have trouble finding them, you can call either Marie or Joanne and other people on the steering committee, or find another faculty affiliate and just say, I'm looking for somebody. We're always willing to help. I can't help with the music industry, so I don't know too many people on that side of campus. But
We did change, because we have the additional programs, the webpage now will say on the left there, under center, it will say funding programs. And instead of funding programs is where you'll find Eagle SPUR. But we also have Eagle Wings and Summer Research Grants is under that major link as well.
okay. So that's the process. I hope